So how did they know eventually that it was lupus in my body? First of all, I was very, very young to be suffering with lupus at that time. They just didn't catch it at that age. How did they catch it eventually? There is a waste product that comes out of your cells that when your white blood cells are confused and fighting the wrong stuff, they put off this waste product, and there's like these things called antigen. So I totally said that wrong. Here's what the definition of an antigen is. And when you can test for that in a blood test. So what they did is they took vials of blood and they tested for this certain autoimmune antigen profile. I need to make sure that's what it's called. But eventually they performed the right blood test and figured out that there was this specific antigen that was in my blood that said, yes, you are on the lupus spectrum, because it's kind of like a lupus spectrum. You're either in a flare-up or you're in remission or somewhere in between. Cells are really interesting because cells have a lot of things that they're doing inside of there. And you got to think, in your body, anytime if you eat and you work, then your body is producing waste. You poop or you urinate. So your cells actually do the same thing. They're doing a lot of things in there and they're producing a lot of waste. When people talk about things like inflammation is a buildup of that waste product within your body. People used to call them free radicals, and it's like the waste is kind of stuck in there, either in your cells or in your joints or in your muscles, or they can go into your organs and your organs can go toxic and things like that. That can all be considered inflammation. There's a lot of inflammation or waste product or free radicals, whatever you want to call them, floating around a lupus patient body. So one of the things you really want to be doing is finding a way to rid yourself of free radicals, all that waste that's stuck inside your body. How do you do that? Some of the ways are, should I write them? So what things can we do as lupus patients to actually help our immune system or our little soldiers, our little white blood cells not be confused? Okay, well, it's not about not being confused. They're always going to be confused. There's always going to be a break in the link between the brain and these guys. There just is. There's some problem. They haven't figured out a way to fix that yet. A few things that we can do is, since we have such a buildup of waste in our cells, inflammation on a cellular level as well as, everywhere else, we want to do lots and lots of stretching, because stretching will move that fluid around in your body and move the lactic acid in your muscles, move the minerals around every time you stretch your body, and it is really good to help with inflammation. Whole foods. And what that means is no processed foods. That means you're cooking everything from scratch. No boxed foods. Sorry. They also say no garlic and no alfalfa. I'm going to do a whole series about food, but no garlic and no alfalfa is pretty important because they have enzymes in them that trigger the immune response. So it's okay to have a little bit of those, and you really want to look about the alfalfa because it's in a lot more than you think. Garlic's in everything that's savory. Just avoid cooking with it or going out of your way to use it. Don't use any kind of immune supplements. Now this is going to sound crazy because we're in COVID age and it sounds so backwards, and it sounded so backwards to me until I did the research. So what that means is no immune support supplements. That means specifically echinacea, elderberry, cat's claw, St. John's wort, and ginseng. Don't do any of those, because if you remember in my first video, I talk about the slingshot. What you're doing when you take immune support is you're pulling that slingshot and amping it up and getting more and more and more tension on that immune system slingshot. And you're building up these not smart soldiers, more and more white blood cells. So now you've got this incredible tension on this immune system slingshot and all of these extra white blood cells that aren't very smart. So once you have some kind of a trigger, which is usually some kind of an allergy, a virus, a bacteria, or a food, one of these, then all of a sudden you have released the slingshot and you have boosted these soldiers up so much with these immune supports that now they're going insane in your body. You don't want that. You kind of want the opposite. So I'm going to do a video about what supplements you can do and what you can do to help specifically for that. But do not take these things: echinacea, elderberry, cat's claw, St. John's wort, or ginseng. Not good for lupus patients. Two other things you can do is add lots of fiber into your diet, both through foods and through like the Metamucil powder. You can mix it into water. It tastes a little soapy when you drink it, but you can mix it into anything and it's supposed to disappear if you mix it long enough. Hydrate. Flush your body constantly. We already talked about how much waste our cells make and all of these extra things that are in our body that we need to flush out. Hydrate a lot. So there's some information that I wish I knew when I was younger and diagnosed with this. And especially now with COVID, it is so nice to go back and relearn all of these things. Listen to your body, learn what your triggers are, and realize that they can always be changing. You really have to be in tune with yourself when you're stretching. Pay attention to what your body's telling you. Maybe you want salty snacks. Maybe you realize you're low in sodium. Maybe you want a banana and you realize your potassium is low. Maybe it could be anything, y'all. Just pay attention to your body. It's telling you what it needs.